What is up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Three Gyms Talk Hockey. I'm your host, Solon Mijas, alongside Michael Cardoza and Matt Milko. So sweet they had to do it twice, huh, boys? I mean, the Panthers, back-to-back Cup champs, clinched the win in Game 6 at home on home ice. First team to win back-to-back championships on home ice since the Edmonton Oilers did it in 87, 88, and it was in dominating fashion nonetheless. 5-1 win. Sam Reinhart explodes. 4 goals in the series clinching game. I mean, this guy just has a knack for performing when it matters. Last year, he scores the game winner in Game 7. This year, he decides to pot 4. So, a lot of talk about. The celebrations have been absolutely insane over the last couple days. So, we'll touch up on that after we get into what happened during the game. I mean, fellas, we all kind of expected a half decently close game. Not necessarily low scoring, but we expected a tight game. And before we know it, halfway through the third period or a little bit past the halfway mark, it's 4-0 Florida. All hope is gone for the Oilers, and Connor McDavid has lost his second straight Stanley Cup final. What do we got to say, boys?
I mean, if you look at the way that Florida's roster is built, it's really just hard to even come close to competing with them. Up and down the lineup, they just have so much depth, and obviously they have a winning culture there now. So, really tough spot for the Oilers to be in. I think the two biggest factors throughout this series were the difference in goaltending between Bobrovsky and then Skinner. And then the other thing was the depth again. If you look at the third line of the Panthers, they have Marchand, Lundell, and Lusty going up against Skinner, Henrique, and Freddie. So, I mean, that's a huge skill gap if you look at those two lineups. And obviously, you got Barkov going head-to-head with McDavid, so those kind of like match out. But when it came down to the depth of the Florida Panthers, they really came up big. And I think Matthew Tkachuk said it great, because he did say a quote where anytime the Panthers needed to rely on something to happen, they could look for anyone on the team to contribute. Where if the Oilers needed something in a big way, they would look at two guys, being McDavid and Draisaitl. So a lot more confidence on the Florida side and a whole lot more depth.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Panthers are so deep, and Matty Tkachuk just throwing a little bit of shade. That's what he does. He's a troll, and he's one of the best at what he does. Post game, he made a couple comments. Both teams made a couple comments that we'll get into, but Matty Tkachuk just pointing out the obvious. We have depth. They don't. There's a reason why we're celebrating right now, and they're not. What are you guys like? Throughout that game, I feel like Edmonton just didn't necessarily have energy. You know what I mean? Like, Florida's forecheck, aside from the fact that it hasn't changed, it's been the same all playoffs, all series. They didn't give Edmonton's defense or forwards any chance, any room to really breathe. I mean, look at that Ekholm D2D pass that led to who was it? Reinhardt's goal?
That was the first Reinhardt goal.
Yeah, that was the first Reinhardt goal. That was a grenade.
He made a terrible pass to, who is it, Wallman? I don't know.
No. It was Bouchard.
Bouchard couldn't handle it. And then Ekholm continues to come back to get into the play, and then gets walked by Reinhardt. And then Reinhardt just has a one-on-one, basically free goal. Like, I think Ekholm played through an injury, but Ekholm had a terrible series for being the Oilers. Like, I think if you ask any hockey fan, he's probably their best defensive defenseman on that team. And he had an awful series. He was supposed to be the guy to lock it down, to shut down the Florida big stars. And he really just did not do any of that at all. He was more of a detriment than a help.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Like, Ekholm, and aside from the fact that he was playing through an injury, he's also a lefty who was playing a majority of the series on the right side. That disadvantages a lot of defensemen. Like, obviously, you're on your off wing. Like, okay, yeah, you should know how to play on your off wing or be comfortable if you're playing in that position. But at the end of the day, that's not his natural position. It's the Stanley Cup Finals, and he's fighting through an injury. So you look at 2 goals that he was on the wrong end of, obviously, in Game 6, the Reinhart goal, and then the Marchand goal where he just swooped in from center ice off the faceoff, and he just got walked. He turned the wrong way, but aside from that, he's on his offside, which isn't an excuse, but it makes that play that much more difficult to make. So Florida's just eating down on all their opponents, giving them no time and space to work with. And I feel like that is a bigger compliment to Florida than it is kind of like looking down on Edmonton, just in the fact that Edmonton can play with the best of them, but Florida's structure doesn't let you play at your best, which is how they play at their best. So it's just something that we haven't seen before. And as we say, I feel like every year with a new Stanley Cup champion, especially when it's a team like Tampa or a team like Florida where they've made 3 straight Cup finals, won 2 of those 3, it's teams are going to try to shape their rosters based off of those teams, the depth, the way that they play. But that's not necessarily how every team could play, because Florida has the roster to play that way. Not every team has that. Like you said, Dud, Brad Marchand's on their third line. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, they just have continuous, relentless effort, and they're a team that's built to wear you down over a 7-game series. Like, they're gonna mentally abuse you, they're gonna physically come after you, and it's overwhelming pretty much every time. That's the reason they're back-to-back champions. Where was I gonna go with this? Let's see. I don't even know. Just continue.
I mean,
Go shoot.
yeah, I was like, if we're talking about the Florida depth, I think even we talk about the third line, I think that other than the goalie situation, we already talked a lot about that, but I think the third line was a huge key for the Florida Panthers. And we talked about Marchand, we talked about like Lundell and Luostarinen, but Luostarinen, I think I saw a stat where he had the most, other than McDavid and Draisaitl, he had the most even strength points in this postseason, which flies so far under the radar. No one even, when you think of Florida Panthers, that might be the 10th, 12th guy that comes up to mind when you think about the Panthers, which, I mean, we've been talking about it so far this whole podcast, but just goes back to their depth and how well they structured their team and how well that team is built for the playoffs. And they're going to be back, and there's nothing we could do about it.
I mean, just as a whole, Luostarinen is also like you said, he's not just a third liner on any team. He's a third liner on this Panthers team, which goes back to what you were saying, the depth. But then generally, one thing that everyone kind of put an emphasis on, especially if you were an Oilers player, is a fast start. Get off to a fast start. They haven't been able to do that. The only game that they scored first in was the game 1 when Draisaitl scored 56 seconds in or whatever it was, a minute in. But aside from that, Florida scored first in 4 of the 5 games. And I feel like one stat that hasn't been getting overlooked, but is just really mind-boggling to me, is the fact that Florida did not go a first period without scoring a minimum of 2 goals. They scored 2 goals in every single first period, other than, was it game 4 when they went up 3-0 after the first.
And that was a game they lost.
Exactly. So you can't, I don't understand if when you're Edmonton, how you could win games like that or expect to win games like that. Obviously, McDavid came out earlier in the series saying, "Oh, we haven't given our best. You haven't seen our best," whatever the exact quote was. But we never did see their best. McDavid had 5 points through the first 2 games. We thought this was going to be the greatest Stanley Cup final we've ever seen. And now that it's all said and done, I don't think that we could even say that this was the greatest start to a Stanley Cup final, but it wasn't the greatest Stanley Cup final. Sure, 3 of the games went into overtime, but what good were the overtime games from the second that the games that didn't go into overtime, Florida just dominated?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Florida basically dominated every game, and then the Oilers caught some lucky breaks. I mean, kind of like you said, when you're starting every game practically behind, it's going to be a really long way back to tie it up, especially against a team who's so experienced and a team who doesn't usually blow leads. Like, we can keep touching on the depth that the Panthers have, but like, they just have such a winning culture, and everyone is so bought into the system that they have there. So they know exactly how to structure their games from pretty much any situation that happens. Like, they know how to put the gas on when they need to. Like, you see in game 5, they need to put the gas on. They need to tie this game to put it to overtime. What do? Reinhart scores with 13 seconds left. All right. They're up 2-0 in a game 6 closeout. What do? Put a chokehold on McDavid and Draisaitl because they know that the third line for the Oilers probably isn't going to produce. They didn't really do anything for them all series. You shut down their 2 big dogs. Boom. You close it out. You win the Stanley Cup at home.
I mean, they shut down the big dogs in every series, the Panthers, and I wouldn't even. I know we say McDavid and Draisaitl didn't have their best series here in the final, but I wouldn't blame it on them at all. I mean, I don't think anybody is, but I think that's just Florida defense, and Barkov especially just going out there basically almost every time McDavid's on the ice or Draisaitl's on the ice, and that be his specific role. Just shadow them and watch them everywhere they go and make sure they don't win the series, because those were the 2 X factors for the Oilers. And that was Barkov's job. Just don't let them win the series for them, and we'll do the rest.
I kind of want to touch up on that. Obviously, yeah, Barkov and Reinhart did have a big responsibility in terms of shutting down McDavid and Draisaitl, but the one player that's not getting enough attention for all the work that he's done in keeping McDavid and Draisaitl off the score sheet is Forsling. Gustav Forsling is, I mean, Biz said it on the Spin Chicklets podcast. I don't know if I'd go as far as he did in saying that he's the best defensive defenseman in the NHL, but my God, he's up there. He is 100% up there, and this series proved it. Like, just watching those games, whenever McDavid had a burst of speed or seemed like he had a little bit of something to work with, something that only Connor McDavid can make work, but nonetheless, he had something to work with, Forsling was there with his stick. Forsling didn't necessarily put the body on him all the time, but Forsling is so good with his body positioning and his stick positioning that McDavid couldn't get anything going, whether he was trying to make a pass, make a shot, or dance him, whatever he was trying to do. Forsling somehow had the answer. And I can't think of many other defensemen who are able to defend McDavid in that way at that consistent of a pace. It's not an easy task, and with the way that McDavid moves and shifts around players, that was one thing that really caught my eye, because Forsling, truthfully, after game 2, I feel like McDavid wasn't McDavid. Yeah, he was trying to do McDavid things, but he wasn't producing. And I feel like that's why a lot of people are looking at him and Draisaitl and they're like, oh, they didn't have that good of a final. It's like both of them still averaged over a point per game. Both of them played better than a majority of players in terms of the stat sheet, but it's those little details, like you said, Barkov, Reinhart, Forsling, Ekblad in game 3. Like, those are what Florida has in terms of depth and just the way that their lineup structured to shut down 2 of the best players in the world, which just kind of like mind-boggling watching. Like, you don't see those guys just getting stood up at that often.
Yeah, and I think it's also like a big credit to the Florida team as a whole, because it seems like anyone who goes down there and plays with them steps their game up. Like, their game elevates and goes to the next level, right? Gustav Forsling wasn't drafted by the Panthers. He was in a trade package.
He was undrafted, period, I think.
Oh, he was undrafted. Either way. He goes to the Panthers. You don't really hear about his name at all. And next thing you know, they sign him to a big contract. You're like, who is this guy? And then he has the responsibility of lining up against McDavid every time he's out there. And he does an amazing job of shutting him down. I mean, he has a very high hockey IQ, and he knows how to get stick on puck. And that's the biggest thing, because, like you said, anytime McDavid would kind of have something going and you'd see him flying down the ice, Forsling
I just
want
to correct myself real quick. Forsling was drafted in the 5th round by Vancouver. So that's my fault. He was not undrafted.
Okay. Yeah, but like you look at a lot of these guys. They bring in Sam Bennett. You know, he was kind of iffy when he was a Calgary Flame, and then he comes to Florida and he just explodes. And now, you know, could easily get himself an 8x8 deal. Sam Reinhart from the Sabres, again, like another very high draft pick. He went top 3, wasn't 3, wasn't 1. But again, like you don't really hear much about him, and then he goes to Florida, and he was a Selke finalist, closed out 2 Stanley Cups, and put up 4 goals in a game-clinching series. And that's
Ryan,
just a few of them. There's plenty others too.
Just check Brad Marchand's story.
Yeah, exactly. That one too. I was going to say that, but
that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, even like Sam Bennett, you're saying he easily could have secured himself an 8x8 contract. What about last night? The Florida Panthers are at 11 in Miami, and you have whatever they had, like a big sign or whatever. It was a screen that said 8 more years, and then you just have Sam Bennett. Shh. The crowd goes quiet, and he's just like, I ain't going anywhere. Like, that's sick. I don't know what they got going on in terms of contracts, but if he does sign, that's going to go down as one of the best moments in Florida Panthers history. Like, all right, like you have chance outside of elbow room the morning after, like 8 more years. Marchand with his arm around Bennett, like, yeah, like sign him 8 more years. It's like Marshy might not even be back, and he's telling them like, yeah, sign him. So that's like, that just shows you like the camaraderie within this team. Like Marchand just got there, or you know what I mean? Like he was a accusation halfway through the season. He was rivals with this team prior to being traded there, and now they're all boys. That's the beauty of hockey. Like these guys speak so highly of each other. They're so close, and there's a reason why they're at the point they are. Someone like Sam Reinhart, like you said, like he was never bad in Buffalo, but it's just Florida has what players need to succeed, especially the last couple of years. Matty Tkachuk and Jonathan Huberdeau, that trade that flipped them, no one really looked at that as like, oh, that's going to be a franchise-altering trade. That was just a big trade. And then you see what happens. Tkachuk just fit the system that much better than Huberdeau. Not saying that Huberdeau wasn't good with the Panthers, but obviously Tkachuk had just a little bit more. It just worked. So it's little things like that build championship teams. And this team that I kind of want to point out is the fact that Tampa, when they went on their 3 straight runs, they drafted a majority of their core. They drafted Stamkos, Kucherov, Vasilevsky, Hedman, you name it, and they drafted the majority of their core. This team was not built in the draft. Players got traded to Florida. Players signed in Florida, free agents, waivers, whatever the case may be. They built this team. Bill Zito built this team from the ground up. He built it not through the draft, but in ways that a lot of other teams try to build their teams and struggle. So I don't know if that is like something that you guys have realized, but that's something that has really impressed me about this team, because these guys didn't grow up playing a majority of their careers together. Yeah, a lot of these guys have played together for a minute, but they weren't drafted here, which I think is kind of interesting as a whole. But back on the topic of Bennett, this was a point of conversation, obviously, the Conn Smythe and everything. Were you guys surprised at that final verdict? Because I know, Dud, you were saying that Marshy had an argument, and he did come up a close second.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with the decision to give it to Sam Bennett. He had a great playoff run. He was pretty much an X factor in every game. You could kind of count on him to come through if you needed him. And honestly, there was I think he had a lot of puck luck, because he had so many good scoring opportunities and he would always cash in. Like there was a few times maybe he got saved or missed the net, but he was always humming around the net, and the pucks seemed to find him, or he seemed to find the open space to be able to make a play, and he was able to cash in. I mean, 15 goals in a playoff run is really amazing.
Again, what was it, 13 on the road?
Yeah, something like that. And I mean, credits to Brad Marchand. I mean, I haven't seen him play that well since maybe the 2021 season, where the Bruins were the best team in the league. But I mean, he kind of he looked like he was back in his prime again, making some unreal plays. I think he was 8 votes short of the Conn Smythe, which is again incredible for a 37-year-old. But when you look back at the numbers and the impact, they both had huge impacts, but overall Sam Bennett deserved it.
Yeah, I agree with the decision for Sam Bennett. I think we all would have appreciated and rathered Brad Marchand to get it. But I think if you just look at the stats, I think Bennett 100% deserved it. I think Marchand would have got the Conn Smythe if he scored any sort of goal in that last game 6. If he scored 1 goal, 1 assist, or put up 2 points, I think he would have got over the hedge because the voting was really close. I think it was 76 points for Bennett, 67 points for Marchand, or something like that. It was tight, but Marchand lifting the Conn Smythe would have been really cool. But
that would have been like a
right.
huge just fuck you to
They're
the
both
face
gonna get huge
for
bags.
every Boston fan.
Yeah,
it already is actually.
Can we also appreciate the fact that Florida had 6 different players with 20 plus points in the playoffs? That's crazy. They played 23 games. And 3 players led the charge. Sam Reinhart, Matty Tkachuk, and Carter Verhaeghe all had 23 points. And then you had 6 players with 20 plus. Like, that's just not fair. You have 11 guys with 10 plus points. And then in the finals alone, you have 3 separate players with 5 plus goals. Sam Reinhart, because of that 4-goal performance, he had 7 total in the finals. Then you have Marshy, who had 6, and then Bennett, who had 5. That's unheard of. That's insane. And then just the fact that, I mean, you just look at how many goals they were putting up, and it makes sense. But you still, you don't see something like that every day. So just the fact they were able to do that against a team like Edmonton just shows how much better Florida is than this league. Like they said it, their toughest matchup was in the first round against not in the first round, I mean in the second round against Toronto. Like now if you're Tampa, Toronto, or Carolina, you're kind of looking at this final series being like, damn, like obviously that could have been us. But at the same time, like not necessarily, because there's a reason why Florida bulldozed their way through all of those teams, because they were just that much better. And then I feel like one of the clearest factors, obviously, Dozer, you mentioned it before, is the fact that Florida had a legitimate goaltender in net. What could have this series been if Edmonton had a Bobrovsky-like goaltender in net? It changes the entire series. You get some saves that you may have not gone with Skinner in net, and regardless, you take Skinner out, you put Pickard in. Like, that's not a trade-off I'd want to see in the Stanley Cup final. And then on top of it, you don't even know who your starting goalie is in game 6 at the end of game 5 because you don't know what to do anymore. So the Oilers really kind of dug themselves a hole in this one. And post-game, you saw it, you heard it in McDavid's voice and his face. He wasn't upset the way that he was last year. Like, he was angry. He was mad at what happened. Like, he was closer last year than he was this year, and last year they went down 3-0. So, I mean, did you guys listen to the post game conferences at all, or like did you guys hear what McDavid said? Because I feel like that also kind of like threw a little bit of shade in terms of like what is he going to do in the future, like when it comes time to sign.
I actually have him quoted on something that he said. And I quote, he said, "If I feel there's a good window to win here over and over again, then signing's no problem." But he's not in a rush to sign. Like he's not going to put pen to paper by July 1st. He needs to, take his time, regroup, and really figure out if Edmonton has some sort of long-term solution for how they are going to get to hoisting the Stanley Cup. I mean, they have the huge goaltending problem. They need some contracts that they need to get off the books, to be quite frank. They're paying Darnell Nurse way too much money that could be used elsewhere. Dozer, you said Evander Kane's getting $5 million. That's another one you kind of need to get off the books, especially when, he's leading the team in penalties. Not really helping you that much offensively either. And then, it's a lot of management stuff too. So it's going to come down to the thing with McDavid is it's not going to come down to money. Money's not going to be an issue. Edmonton's going to he's going to get money wherever he goes. He could probably work a $20 million contract if he really wanted it, but he wants to go somewhere that's going to win and is going to have a team that can build around him to continue to win. Because another thing that he did mention is that all he cares about is winning. Like, he doesn't care about the money. He probably doesn't care where he's playing. He just wants to win.
You just mentioned one of his quotes from his presser yesterday. I actually had something jotted down on my own. And this is the full quote. He says, "This core has been here for a long time. We've been building to this moment all along. The work that's gone behind the scenes, the conversations, the endless disappointments, and some good times, obviously, along the way as well. Yeah, we're all in this together trying to get over that finish line. With that being said, ultimately, I still need to do what's best for me and my family. That's what I have to take care of first." And so something like that, like if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan, what do you take of that message? Like, what's your takeaway? Obviously, he wants to win a championship. Obviously, he wants it to be in Edmonton. But I'm not expecting him to guarantee a re-sign. But those comments kind of make you question, like, hey, like, is he really thinking about going somewhere else?
I mean, I don't think he's thinking about going somewhere else. I think he's putting those comments out kind of just to put some pressure on the GM of the Oilers and the coaching staff of the Oilers to just make some changes. Like, you kind of went through the last two postseasons and even further back with that with zero goaltending help at all. Like, you need a goaltender. There's a lot of problems that are occurring in the Oilers system right now. You got a lot of question marks with Bouchard being an RFA, McDavid being a UFA after the end of next year, and then a lot of contracts that really aren't helpful at all. You're paying people too much money, and it's kind of putting them in a constraint to improve their team. And clearly, their team needs to get better if they want to get over the hump. So I think he's just making those comments to put some pressure on. I don't think he just lost the Stanley Cup. I don't think he's looking to another team or looking forward to another team. He just wants to win. And if the Oilers don't do anything about that or don't make the changes that he sees to be that he thinks needs to be, I think he will say something or just leave, which would suck for Oilers fans, but it would be sick for the rest of the league.
If I'm an Oilers fan right now, I would be a little scared. I would definitely be concerned about what McDavid's saying. But again, he's probably in an emotional state where he isn't in any position ready to make a decision or come to any sort of conclusion about what he wants to do. But I think if you look ahead into next season and the Oilers are subpar or, they're not really in a position to win the Stanley Cup, I would be really scared because if McDavid knows he can't win in Edmonton, and you have to think since he's a UFA, you would almost have to be in the position where if McDavid's not happy, you would kind of have to trade him. You have to get something for him. You can't just let the best player in the league walk and get nothing in return. So if the Oilers don't find a way to win the Stanley Cup or at least make it to the finals again, I would be very concerned about what McDavid's future looks like. Being an Edmonton Oiler going forward.
I agree with both sides. I think he's putting it out there, just whatever that. There's obviously an open wound right now throughout the entire Edmonton organization. He's just trying to put some salt in the wound. But at the same time, I also agree he could get as much as he wants from anywhere. Obviously not anywhere because not every team has that kind of money, but you know what I'm saying? Like a player like Connor McDavid, you could get whatever you want, whatever you're asking for. But at the same time, if you're Edmonton, this is the best player in the world. He's a UFA at the end of next season. I feel like I expect him, if he stays in Edmonton, I expect the contract to be signed by the start of next season. If there isn't a contract signed by the start of next season, I would be very scared if I'm an Edmonton fan. Because, like you said, Dud, you don't want to risk losing a player like McDavid for nothing. And that could also be so detrimental to the league. Imagine just giving a team McDavid without having to give anything up. He's going to a contender. So now imagine what that team could be. Whichever team that may be, but regardless, if I'm Edmonton, yeah, I'm a little bit worried, but I'm also not completely like, hey, he's out. I mean, at the end of the day, you did just make 2 straight Stanley Cup finals. You were 2 shots away last year. You were 2 wins away this year. But as we said, Edmonton has a lot of contract situations and little nitty-gritty stuff to kind of figure out within their organization. So McDavid was asked last night or yesterday morning just about what he's thinking in terms of like the next coming years. He's like, I don't really care about any year other than next year. He goes, let's worry about next year, and then we'll get to the rest when it comes. I would say last year was a heartbreak. You were more sad than anything. This year, he's more angry. It's more frustrating, which I could completely see. I mean, you looked at everything, and it almost seemed like the stars aligned for McDavid. Hey, Gretzky and Crosby both lost their first final. They beat the team that beat them in their second final the following season. That wasn't the case for McDavid, and like we kind of spoke about a little bit off Matty Tkachuk, his little subtle comments. We have the depth. The Oilers are going to 2 guys. And Draisaitl also made that kind of clear in his presser yesterday. How him and McDavid are always judged off of their production. This is the exact quote. With Connor and myself, a lot of times we get judged off of our production, our points, our output offensively. But the only thing him and I want to do is win. And I could go through a playoff run with 12 points. If we win, I'll be happy, and that's the same for our whole group. It's not about me, it's about us. That's how hockey is run. That's what makes a sport the greatest sport in the world. When you hear certain comments like that coming from the best players in the world, you can't help but to feel bad for them. I mean, I'm pretty sure that all of us were pulling for them to finally get a ring, and to see them fall again, it sucks. It sucks for the hockey world, because think about how good it would be for hockey to see McDavid win a championship.
Yeah, he definitely gets a lot of criticism for being known as the greatest hockey player on the planet, yet he can't win the championship. He gets a lot of criticism for not being able to get his team over the hump. And also, I think another really important thing to touch up on is, how big of a factor Zach Hyman not being in the lineup was for the Oilers. Mm-hmm. And how it really affected not only their power play, but their lineup in general. They're missing.
Let's also talk about how Nuge was playing with a broken hand.
Yeah, I mean, every team was probably playing through a laundry list of injuries. Like, Barkov had something going on with his hand. Tkachuk was playing with
Tkachuk was screwed up,
torn off the bone.
Tkachuk was screwed up.
They were all fighting through different things, and that's what you do when you have passion for the game and you want to try to do anything that you can, no matter what your body's feeling like, to help your team win and get over that hump. But not having Hyman on the power play, that big body presence to sit in front of the net and kind of just like wreak havoc, or just do what he does best, which is receive backdoor tap-ins from McDavid, and then and then 5-on-5, you're missing your enforcer power forward, right? Like, it's not an easy piece to replace. And Corey Perry kind of filled the role, but like, Corey Perry's 40,
I mean, yeah, but on the topic of Corey Perry, I mean, that's another one. Like people feel bad for McDavid and Draisaitl, but
Jeez,
holy shit, Corey Perry.
man.
Like 5 finals in 6 years and you lose all of them.
It's like a gift and a curse. You know
What
you're
do you
gonna
mean
get
it's a
there
gift and a curse?
because
Like
you know you're gonna
Corey,
get to the finals.
yeah, dude, but Corey Perry is probably the curse right now. He's
I
probably
don't
the reason.
know.
He's probably the reason.
He's a curse.
Like, like this is on Perry. Like Perry must have done something so terrible in his life early in his career. He must have done something that now the hockey gods are just like, nah, like you're not winning another championship.
Dude, he must have celebrated way too hard with the cup when he won it with the Ducks.
No. You can't celebrate harder than Marshy's been celebrating with the Bruins and now with the Panthers. So, but
Yeah, he's balling out, man.
But
balling
real
out.
talk, you can't not feel bad for someone like Corey Perry. He's 40 years old. He's made 5 finals in 6 years. Has lost all of them, and then a reporter has the decency to ask him and be like, "Hey, like, are you like grateful for those opportunities to make the final?" It's just like, well, yeah, obviously he's going to be grateful for making for an opportunity to be in the finals. But what good is that opportunity when you come short 5 times in the same decade? Like, well, how would you guys feel? Like, I mean, okay, obviously we can't even like really like fathom the idea of making 5 finals in 6 years, but like put yourselves in Corey Perry's shoes. Like, what would you guys do? Like, what would be going through your guys' head?
Retire. 40 years old. Can't win a chip.
I'd be really questioning what I'm doing. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'd have so much mental havoc going on if I continued to lose in the finals like that. I bet if you looked at the odds of that happening, it's like you'd probably getting struck by lightning is a better odd than making 5 finals and losing all 5.
Yeah, probably. I mean, a stat like that kind of reminds me of Carolina going 0-15 in conference final games over their last like 4 trips there, and then finally winning like game 4 this year. Like the chances of that happening were like 0.003 something. So I could imagine the chances or the odds are something similar to that. But I kind of want to get into the Florida Panthers and kind of how this celebration has kind of just exploded. Last year, I was actually talking to a couple like officers outside of Elbow Room on Wednesday morning, and they were all saying last year was crazy because it was the first time. Like they knew what to expect, but they didn't know what to expect. They're like, this year we knew what to expect, so they held it down. They did their part. But these Florida Panthers, my God, give someone a Stanley Cup and a bar that's across the beach, and they're gonna have fun. Like Matty Tkachuk is on cloud 9. This is his second straight championship. I mean, he's a party animal. Sam Reinhart, 4 goals. Like, how could he not love his life? And then you got all the Euros. The Euros are awesome. Like, they just have fun. They're pouring beer into the cup. They're tossing it on fans. They're yelling. They're whatever. They're sneaking out to go onto a golf cart, just driving around Fort Lauderdale.
Probably
Last night,
fucking hammered.
yeah, no, like they're
buzzing.
That's what I'm saying. It's like these guys are having fun. Like, look at Marshy. Like, Dud, what do you think about Marshy's Instagram story? Like,
I'm really happy for the guy, but at the same time, it's like really frustrating to watch him win with that team. I wouldn't have cared if it was any other team, but the fact that it had to be the Panthers is the part that really is like, you gotta be kidding me.
What about him starting the "Thank You Boston" chant at Elbow
Was it
Room?
him that started it? I don't know if it was him.
Maybe one person said it, but he got the whole crowd going to get it going.
I thought the crowd started it. Yeah, that I didn't like that very much. Don Sweeney's an idiot.
I mean, how about another Boston Bruin, AJ Greer at Elbow Room?
Oh,
at Elbow Room, it's like, let's go Panthers chant, and he just stops the crowd. Fuck the Oilers, and everyone just starts chanting. It's just like, all right, like these guys are having fun. Listen, I think none of us are big fans of the Panthers. Like we obviously all have our reasons, but these guys have fun, and I like seeing people have fun. So my God, that was one hell of an environment to kind of be in and just see even all the Instagram videos like from last night. You have Reinhardt climbing a pole to grab a Alexander Barkov jersey, hanging from like the ceiling or wherever the hell it was at the bar yesterday, like holding on to the cup, just throwing each other up. Like these guys are just living their lives. And Brad Marchand has some big shoes to fill because in 2011, he had one hell of a summer. 14 years later, he's got people to celebrate it with, so he's got to have one hell of a summer again. So
He's got kids now. He'll take it. He'll relax a little bit.
I don't
I don't
know.
know.
I don't
It's been
know.
going pretty crazy, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know.
That feeling of winning the Stanley Cup after 14 years is probably the best feeling in the world. So
I mean, listen, the one thing that I'll say is that it was 14 years in the making, but Brad Marchand post-game even said, he goes, you really realize how tough it is because he won it in his rookie year. In your rookie year, you don't realize how tough it is when you win it. It's, oh, okay, cool. I mean, he won it in 2011. He made another cup final in 2013.
And 2019.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying at the beginning of his career. That's twice in the first 3 seasons of his career. When you don't really grasp how tough it is to because what happened in 2012, did you guys didn't make the conference final in 2012, right?
I don't remember, to be honest. I don't remember 2012.
Anyways, long story short, he even said he appreciates it this much more. Just because it was a 14-year wait, now he has a family, he has kids. So just a cool story looking at it. Obviously Florida was one of the few teams that he would have accepted a trade to, and it worked in his favor. Obviously, it sucks for Boston, but nobody likes the Rat, but you also can't hate the Rat. So, kind of a cool little moment down in Florida with Marshy getting along with his former rivals.
Yeah. But it was also pretty cool how when the Panthers won, they passed the after giving it to Barkov, they passed the cup to all the guys who have never won a cup before giving it to the rest of the guys on the team who won it last year and whatnot. So that's a pretty cool moment for all those guys to be able to touch the cup first, and it really shows the camaraderie that they have there and how much everyone on that team wanted each other to win.
Yeah, even like guys that played maybe 5 minutes a night, 10 minutes a night in the games, even scratches touch the cup before like the main key guys, which is just the camaraderie and the leadership in that room is unbelievable. I heard Barkov talking about it post game. He's like, that's one thing we decided on. We talked about as a team, like we want to get all the guys that never had the opportunity or the chance to lift the cup. We wanted them to get it first because it's a once in a lifetime feeling. And honestly, getting it first and last, like you get all the fans are still there. Like it's definitely a difference, but like unbelievable, great leadership in that room. And it's happy to see. I was so surprised when I saw Nate Schmidt get the cup second. I was predicting it to be Marshy or Bobrovsky or something like that. And then I kind of picked up after they I don't know who got it third, but I think it was Thomas Nosek
Seth
or
Jones.
something. Seth Jones.
Seth Jones and then Nosek. Yeah. Yeah, but I agree. Like when I was watching it, I was talking to somebody next to me and we're like, all right, who do we think it is? I go, I'm predicting Nate Schmidt because he spent the whole season with Florida, has never won a cup. And then after Nate Schmidt, it's going to go to Seth Jones. He goes, I like that prediction. That happened. And then from then on out, you kind of realize, like you said, Doza, you caught on to what they were doing. They gave it to everyone. You started seeing guys that didn't even touch the ice the entire playoffs. Like, that's, like you said, that's unbelievable leadership. Barkov is one of the best captains in the NHL. And I feel like just the way that he leads by example is the biggest thing. He handed it off to the guys that had never won before. And aside from the fact that they won it last year, he said, he goes, we know that feeling of lifting the cup for the first time. These guys don't. They've never had that moment. So let's give it to them. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you played or not. You're still a part of the team. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen the videos of like the game puck that the Panthers would give the player of the game to put on the wall to signify how many wins they have in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Vanacek got it one day. Last year, Gatkovic, who didn't play a single game, got it. They understand the importance of everybody. Nobody goes to the rink and is like, oh, hey, I'm not playing. I'm going to half-ass a skate or a workout. It's everyone's there together. It's a team game. Everyone does their part. So I think Alexander Barkov, if he's not already, will go down as one of the best captains in the NHL. And just little gestures like that.
Also, when the time was running out, the Panthers put their fourth line guys who all had never won the cup out there to clinch the game out, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah, and Paul Maurice made it clear. Like, I don't know if you guys saw that clip online. I'm sure you guys have, but he made it clear to those guys, like, hey, like, I want you guys out there. Like, if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be here. He expresses the importance of each of his players to them. He makes sure that they know that they're a part of the team, that they're important. And that is such a big part as to why the Panthers operate the way that they do. Everyone knows their worth on the team. So that's like, all in all, just for myself, this Stanley Cup final is one that I'll never forget. I mean, just from the start of it, just to the experiences that I gained from it. But
yeah, I mean, you were firsthand there. Like, what was some of the stuff that you got to experience that you feel like you're never really going to forget?
I mean, for starters, the environment. Other than the Four Nations final, I don't think I've ever been in an environment even relatively close to what Florida was like during those 3 games. And the fact that I saw 2 Florida blowouts, 1 really good game, I think added to my experience, because I could only imagine what that place would have been like if it was an Edmonton blowout in one of the games rather than a Panther blowout. But just the people that I got to meet, everyone's so welcome. Everyone just welcomes you in with open arms. It's not, oh, hey, you're a young kid at a big event. It's, hey, like, what do you, like, who are you working for? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you trying to do? It's like everyone's there trying to help. So aside from the fact where they're trying to show you the ropes, they're willing to. It's not, hey, like, get out of here. Let's show you around. And then on top of it, the players, like, okay, yes, some players might be a little bit more willing to talk than others, but you don't have any players kind of like turn a cold shoulder on you. Everyone's very professional, from the media side of things to the player side of things, and just the way that the NHL kind of just conducts and operates the whole operation of the final. It's so awesome to see just from the back room. You know, I mean, like, everything you see on TV, there's so much preparation. People are there for hours. When I tell you, I've gone to the rink at 4:00 for an 8:00 puck drop. During game 3, I went there so early because first time I'd been to the rink, I didn't know my way around. You had people already there setting up, doing, like, everything was already spotless. So you can only imagine the hours and the time that people put into making that event what it is. And then just overall, the people that I've met, so kind. So couldn't be more grateful. I hope to be there again at some point, but something I'll definitely never forget. I mean, 21 years old, first Stanley Cup final. Not everyone could say that they've done that. And I keep a level head, know that, hey, it's just a start, but now the goal is let's get right back there and do it again. So unbelievable experience. I look forward to the next one, but I want to kind of move forward and talk a little bit about some trades that have gone on. So from the final buzzer of the Stanley Cup final, 48 hours later, so last night, was the beginning of the buyout period. We haven't seen many buyouts, but we have seen some trades, some signings. And one trade that I kind of want to talk about is the Mason Marchment trade from Dallas to Seattle. Marchment got sent to Seattle for a 3rd and a 4th round pick. His AAV is at $4.5 million. What are your guys' thoughts? I think that this is a great trade for both sides, or a good trade for both sides. I'm not going to lie. I kind of expected Dallas to get a little bit more, but I don't hate it nonetheless. So, what were your guys' initial thoughts?
My initial thought was it was well. Did this happen before the Duchesne trade or before the Duchesne extension or after
I'm
the?
I
I'm
think it
pretty
was
sure that it
after.
happened. I'm pretty sure it happened after, because that's
I
the
know it
other thing that I
happened.
was going to bring up.
Yeah, it all happened in the same day, but I
Mhm.
think they signed Duchesne to that extension, and they didn't really have any cap space left, and they still have a lot of RFAs, a lot of UFAs. Like Mikael Granlund, I know is a UFA. They got Maverick Bork, who's an RFA that I really like, and I think the Star. That's honestly, I think,
He's
why
probably gonna
the
get an offer
Stars.
sheet.
I think the Stars traded away Marchment, which is a 4.5 million cap hit away to clear up cap, and I think they're going to try to re-sign either Granlund or Maverick Bork with that money, which smart play. Marchment is a great player. He spent good time in Dallas, but getting a third and a fourth back, which is some tradable assets for their team. They're still a very young team, very good team. They're
Mhm.
just in a cap crunch right now, and they got a lot of players that they want to bring back. And I think that is the main reason why they made that trade. I'm looking at their cap right now. They have 4.5 million left in cap. They got Jamie Benn, who's still a free agent. Dadonov's a free agent. Mikael Granlund's a free agent. Colin Blackwell, free agent. He's probably gone. And then Maverick Bork, 23 years old, RFA. So
Mhm.
they still got a lot of work to do in the offseason. I could see him making another trade to trade away more players to get more cap space, like a Jason Robertson. We've heard that name a lot
Yep.
so far already in the offseason. So we'll see what they do. Very interesting trade, but I think it was the right move for them.
Yeah, I really like Marchman as a player in the way, he plays his game, which is like big physical presence that'll get to the net and score those like greasy goals for you. I think it'll be good for Seattle because it'll kind of replace the Brandon Tanev role because they got rid of him at the deadline to Winnipeg. So kind of flip flopped, and I think Marchman's more of an impactful player, and didn't have to give up a tremendous amount, and he's a pretty reasonable cap hit. Personally, if I was the Stars, I think I would have rather kept Marchman and let Duchesne walk because they basically signed the same deal. They got rid of a $4.5 million deal to sign a $4.5 million AAV,
And the one thing that I'll say about that is also the age.
yeah, I was gonna say Duchesne's kind of like on his way out, and they just signed him to a 4-year deal, and
No,
like they have plenty of other contracts that they need to like kind of figure out. I don't think it'll get to the point that they have to move Robo unless he's asking for over 10. Then I think that's a different discussion. But you know, Granlund's probably gone. And then Jamie Benn's going to have to really find like a hometown deal if they want to keep him. But overall, for that trade specifically, I think I would have personally liked to keep Marchment if I'm a Dallas fan, and I'd rather let Duchesne hit free agency. But
What Melks, one thing I want to say is you said Duchesne's on his way out. Do you know how many points he had last year?
yeah,
that's
he's
what I was
got
just going
82
to say.
points. But
He had a
like,
point per game as a
I wouldn't-
34-year-old.
I wouldn't say it's like the time to sign him to a 4-year deal. Like, great, he had 82 points. You earned your money. You can go to free agency, and we'll fill our roster with spots that can fill the same role.
I mean, I kind of agree with you with the 4 years. I think that's a long, but I think if they went shorter, I think the AAV would have been a lot higher. And
Mhm.
I think that's going to be the case with a lot of players. Like I think Marchand, he's going to get a longer extension for less money.
Yeah.
Because he wants a longer deal, a longer term. But I mean, Duchesne, 82 points in 82 games. Very solid forward, very solid middle sixer for a Dallas team that's already very deep. So I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, I would just plan on the production to continue. I would, if I'm a Dallas management, I wouldn't expect the production to get any better. Like he pretty much hit his ceiling. You know what I mean?
I mean, listen.
As for like a guy like Marchment, you don't know what his ceiling could be. He's still relatively young.
For starters, Marchman is 30 years old. I don't.
Oh, is he?
I don't hate getting rid of Marchman. I don't.
thought he
I
was
don't
in
hate
20.
getting. I don't hate getting rid of Marchment because whatever. I think the Dallas Stars need to switch some things up. You've made 3 straight conference finals. You've come up empty-handed in all of them. But like you said, Dozer, Matt Duchene had a very, very quiet point per game, 82-point season. Marchment had, what do you have? He had 50 points. He had 50 points in 62 games, 47 points in 62 to be exact. He's 30 years old. They're making the same amount of money. But then you also got to remember that Duchene is a center. Marchment is a left wing? So
something like that.
You also got to take that into account. I think that Duchene, okay, I agree. The Duchene contract, the 4 years might have been a little bit too much, but if you gave him less years, the AAV would have been higher. I think if you're the Dallas Stars, you could eat that. That's experience to your roster. That's going to be one of your cornerstones. But in terms of Marchment, he's also a very flippable asset for Seattle. Come trade deadline, if he's not performing, or if he is performing and Seattle's not in a playoff position, guess what? You can move that for assets. But that's going to depend on his productivity. I don't hate the trade.
No, I think it's a good trade for Seattle. I think if I was on Dallas's side, I wouldn't have done it.
That's the argument though, because I also think that if I was I agree. I think that I would have kept Marchment over Duchene, but then looking at the big picture, you kind of do have to just switch it up a little bit. There's a reason why they moved on from Marchment. Yeah, he is younger, but I think that's part of the reason. I feel
they're already going to have a bunch of changes that are going to be happening. They're going to have to let go of a pretty decent chunk of guys because they don't really have cap.
And they fired Pete DeBoer. But one thing I do want to say is about the Marchment versus Duchene debate is if you go into the trade deadline, which I think the Stars are going to be buyers at the trade deadline, they're going to be the top of their conference like usual.
Yeah.
I think it's easier to find a guy like a Mason Marchment for a trade than a Duchene. Just because I think it's a lot easier to trade for wingers in the league than centers. Centers just, their value's automatically a lot higher than wingers just because they're a center, I think. This year, how many centers got traded at the deadline? I can't think of that many. I know all the top wingers basically got dealt. I just think it's easier to find a winger. If you're in need of a winger, I think it's easier to find a winger than to find a center. And that's why I think all these teams kind of try to lock up their center depth through the draft and through free agency before they make trades.
And the one thing I'll add is the experience, Duchene's experience. So then again, you have a Wyatt Johnson, you have a Matt Duchene. Wyatt Johnson's obviously very young, but that's part of my argument. The fact where Wyatt Johnson is your centerpiece. He is what you're building around. Him and Heiskanen. Now,
and Rantanen now.
Well, and Rantanen, but I'm saying long-term future. Wyatt Johnson
into a fat deal too, though.
I know that, but my point is you have your cornerstones
from an age thing.
Yeah. I'm saying you have your cornerstones for the next decade.
Yeah.
Now you give Duchene some time. Obviously, I don't think Wyatt Johnson needs that much mentoring. He's held himself very well in the NHL, but now you have a veteran player able to show the younger guys the ropes, and I think Duchene has a lot more experience than Marchment. On top of the argument that it is easier to replace a winger than it is a center. So I don't hate that trade. That's a good trade on both sides, but I kind of want to get into some signings. Dozer, Matt Rempe will remain a New York Ranger for another 2 years, just under $1 million a season. Thoughts?
I mean, I like it. I think the Rangers were going to keep him either way. He was an RFA, but honestly, Rempe gets a lot of hate in the league, and he's shown a lot of improvement. I'm not just being a biased Ranger fan. When he first came into the league, he was literally just a body. He could not even stand on his stand, basically. He would hit people and fall himself, and he would be 6 inches taller than people. He's shown a lot of improvement. I think he could be an everyday fourth-line player for the Rangers. I think he's better than – we're in the NHL, there's not many – enforcer forwards anymore, just pure enforcers. Reeves is gone. A bunch of these guys that are just straight enforcers are gone. The fourth line is becoming more of a it's becoming more of a skill line than anything, just like depth scoring. But I think Rempe would be a very serviceable fourth line player. He's not bad. He's good on the forecheck. He takes a lot of penalties, but he also creates a lot of power plays for the Rangers. I watched every single Ranger game. He would draw a penalty, 2 penalties a game, just because defensemen don't know how to handle his size and physicality. So it's a fine deal. Under $1 million, why not? Like, we could scratch him. We could play him in our fourth line. He'll be all right for us.
Was that a 2-way contract?
No.
Or one? Oh, it was a 1-way.
I'll
pretty
double
sure
check
it's
that.
one-way.
Yeah,
I'm not
I'll
sure,
double
but-
check that right now, but I'm
damn.
pretty sure it was a 1-way.
Good for him.
But no, I agree, Dozer. I think that you guys were keeping him either way. There's not a lot of Rempes in the NHL. So you gotta keep the unicorns to yourself. You gotta hoard them. But
Yeah, we
in
do have
terms of
2
what?
of them. We got Adam Henstrom.
We
got 2
yeah, but
6'7"
Edstrom's
monsters.
well, yeah. In terms of monsters, you got 2 of them, but Edstrom's not
Nowhere near
a
as physical,
Rempe. But I mean, like you said, Rempe has grown a lot since he first entered the league. He might take some stupid penalties, might whatever, but he's been working on his game. He's been trying to better himself for the team. He knows that the way that he was playing was hurting the team. There's a reason why I wasn't playing a lot of minutes. Now, and on top of it, he's still so young. What is he, 22 still?
He might be 23, 24, but
maybe
very
23 at this point. But point is, he's either 22, 23. He is 22. And it's a 1-way contract. But he's young. He's learning. He's developing. And if the Rangers somehow, some way find a way to make him or to use him to his highest potential, and that's not going to be scoring goals, it's going to be to intimidate teams. Teach him how to forecheck, how to make those smart plays, get on the ice, do your job, get off. And that's what he's been doing. He's getting better at it. So I love that. Give him a 2-year deal, make him prove it. You want to stay in the lineup, you want to stay in the show. This is what you're going to have to do. They're going to have to explain to him, this is how you're going to have to play to stay in the lineup. And it's going to be up to him to do it. So great addition. Like you said, not a lot of enforcers. So that's an upper hand that the Rangers have, because if you have skill and then on the back end you have someone that can intimidate another team's quote unquote tough guys, that only benefits the team which Rempe's on, which is the Rangers.
And one last thing I'll say is when Rempe's on the ice, I love how the Rangers play. Like, when the fourth line is on the ice, all they do is dump in, forecheck hit, and pass the puck to the defenseman, and you just have 6-7 Rempe sitting in front of the net.
It's
Like,
tunnel vision.
There's not many defensemen that could push him out of the way. He's just going to sit there and block the goalie's vision. If a puck goes through or gets through, it's going in the net. So
yeah.
I mean that's playoff hockey basically. If you watch the playoffs, there's so many goals that was just defensemen throwing it to the net, lucky bounce, lucky rebound. It's really it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Rempe's going to be kind of a set piece in the Ranger lineup. I think that's what that contract kind of solidifies. He might not play a full 82-game season, but he will be. I expect him to be in the lineup more often than not.
He'll probably get suspended once or twice as well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, granted how long those suspensions may be, but I kind of that's a newer face in the NHL. Now I want to get to, we've had a couple childhood players retire. Now we got one walking back into the scene. Jonathan Toews, although it cannot be made official until July 1st, he's expected to sign a 1-year contract with his hometown Winnipeg Jets. We got word of that this morning, and that put the biggest smile on my face to start the day. Jonathan Toews obviously has not been in the league for a couple of years, hasn't played. Last time he played was with Chicago. But just hearing of his return, the fact that a team's giving him a chance, and on top of it, it's a team like Winnipeg. What do you guys make of that? Aside from the fact that it's his hometown team, they just won a President's Trophy. They have a very good team. They're trying to find their way to a Stanley Cup. And who better than Captain Sirius? Captained the Blackhawks to 3 Stanley Cups in 5 seasons. And he knows what it takes in every aspect of the game. So I think that's a great signing by Winnipeg. And first and foremost, I'm ecstatic for Jonathan Toews as a player.
It'll be interesting to see how he plays. You know, he's obviously been out of the league for a little bit, and you don't know how the speed and pace of the game will affect a guy like that, especially being a little older now. But you know, he's been an amazing player throughout his career. He has achieved superstar status. He has, you know, the experience of winning cups. So I think he's a guy that can be like a utility piece where you can kind of plug him in the lineup and he'll play his role. He knows what he needs to do. He doesn't need to be the guy they need to rely on to get a point per game. They have, you know, other guys to do that. I think it'll be a good depth piece, and obviously he is a center, so you know that helps the lineup a lot. I think the most important thing is just seeing how he can play with today's pace and speed of the game now.
I mean, I agree. That's like the biggest thing. I loved Jonathan Toews back in the day when he was on the Blackhawks. He was one of the best two-way centers, but I agree. That's like the biggest thing is 2 years out of the league. How is he going to adjust to the speed of the game as every year the game just gets faster and faster? But just going on the Jets side of things, I think this is a perfect fit for the Jets. I think they needed more leadership in that locker room as well. And Jonathan Toews is one of the best guys. If you'd say leaders in the NHL, I mean, I know he's hasn't been there in 2 years, but once he gets into that locker room, he's going to gain everyone's respect in that locker room. Everyone's going to look up to him, even if he's not the same player as he used to be. He'll be a third line, fourth line center that knows his role, and I think the Jets are a perfect fit for him. They needed leadership. They needed more like depth forwards to play like that third line role like the Panthers have, like just grinded out, dirty, gritty player. And I'm excited to see what he does. I think he'll adjust. I think he's going to start off slow, but we'll see how he is. I don't know, how old is he? 38, 39
37,
years old?
I think. Yeah, 37, 38 in that
there.
ballpark.
Hey, I mean, if you look at how Marshy played when he's 37, you know, there's hope.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm interested to see how he comes back and plays, but I'm excited for his return, and I think he'll be serviceable, if not a lot better than we expect.
For one, I completely agree because I do know that he's been skating, he's been working out, he's been getting himself prepared for an NHL return. With that being said, it's also the fact that Winnipeg, like, who knows, like, they might be losing someone like Nikolai Ehlers. So
yeah,
that could also not necessarily fill a role that he's kind of leaving, but he might. Like we said, Marshy is around the same age. They're both 37 years old. And on top of it, like, he knows, okay, yeah, he's been away from the game for 2 years, but look at Landeskog. Landeskog was away from the game for a couple of years. He comes back and he doesn't play very bad. Like,
yeah, there's a big.
You know what I mean?
I would say there is a pretty big age gap there, though, too.
I mean, okay, yeah.
That's
terms
the one
of
thing
age,
that I would say.
Yeah, in terms of age, but I'm saying, like, it's not like both of them spent extended time away from the NHL. Yeah. Landeskog comes back. That's one of the best comeback stories in NHL history. Jonathan Toews coming back. He has, I mean, aside from the fact that whatever he's already been doing to prepare for an NHL return, now you look at the fact that he has the entire summer knowing where he's going to play. Now he could go to Winnipeg or wherever he might train and work more specifically on what they want him to work on and get himself ready for that next NHL season. So a couple cool stories in the Landeskog and Toews side of the hockey world. Couple good signings.
It is also good for Winnipeg to sign a guy like that because Winnipeg doesn't really attract a lot of big free agents, especially, you know, it's kind of known as the location where players don't want to go. I think they did a player poll and Winnipeg was voted as one of the organizations that players were least likely to sign to or whatever. So it's good for Winnipeg's organization. It brings some light to their team, some attraction maybe to their team. especially for a team that, like I was saying, doesn't really get a lot of looks from bigger free agents or
Yeah,
people who want to re-sign, like Ehlers. I bet you Ehlers probably walks.
listen,
He's probably out.
I think Ehlers is out, which is why I think that this signing is that much more important. But like you said, Winnipeg's not very attractive to outsiders looking to go there. But at the end of the day, they are one of the better teams in the league. They just won a President's Trophy. They're trying to get past that hump to win a Stanley Cup. And back to my original point, who better to do that than Captain Sirius? He's captained Chicago Blackhawks team, one of the best teams of the modern era, to 3 cups in 5 years. And now just having that presence in the locker room, just being able to go to him to talk to, that's going to be huge for that organization. So I'm excited to see what he does, similar to how I felt when Landeskog was coming back for the playoffs. So, but looking ahead into next week, we have the draft next Friday and Saturday, the 27th and 28th. We will have a pre-draft podcast episode early next week, kind of discuss all things draft, what's going on, what we expect, what we hope for, and that good stuff. And then right after that, a week, not even half a week later, maybe, we have the July 1st free agency window opening. So quick turnaround in the hockey world. We had game 6 a couple days ago. We have the draft next Friday, so a week from today. And after that, we have free agency. So the hockey world is a buzz fest right now. And quite honestly, there's no better time to be a hockey fan than right now, unless you're an Oilers fan.
Oof.
But
Low blow.
but aside from that, great time to be a hockey fan. A lot of big news. I'm excited for the draft. I'm excited for free agency.
Crazy free agency upcoming too. A lot of big names.
Yep. So stay tuned for that episode. Until the next time of Three Gyms Talk Hockey. Peace.
Peace.